Well, this week, you've heard us talk a lot about transparency and accountability at the state police. Much of the information uncovered by the NBC 10 investigators comes directly from records obtained through the Commonwealth's public records law.
Yeah, but getting our hands on these records, it can take weeks, months, or in some cases, years. Tonight, NBC 10 investigator Corey Smith explains why the public's right to know is sometimes stymied by what some consider to be the Commonwealth's culture of secrecy.
There is a lot to love about Massachusetts, but one thing Bay Staters and folks in our business can't stand is the Commonwealth's well-known lack of transparency, especially when it comes to public records. The folks fighting for your right to know believe that culture of secrecy trickles down from the governor's office and the legislature to state agencies like law enforcement.
We, in theory, have a public records law that allows people to get access to just about anything, but in practice is full of holes.
As a freelance journalist who reports on police misconduct, Andrew Comer is all too familiar with the pitfalls of the Massachusetts public records law.
Agencies just act as though they're above the law, and they will ignore public records requests if they don't want to answer them.
Comer has practically seen it all. He said agencies charge astronomical fees to gather records, erroneously claim they're exempt from being disclosed, or ignores requests altogether. In one case, Comer says he waited nearly a year for Mass State Police to provide him with 2 spreadsheets.
One of the most well-funded agencies in the state, and they simply will not respond to a records request if they don't want to.
Comer says this issue permeates through agencies across the Commonwealth. It's why journalists like him and First Amendment advocates like Justin Silverman are calling for changes to the law.
It's just a very weak public records law that on its face should grant us a lot of transparency, but in reality, it doesn't.
Silverman is the executive director of the New England First Amendment Coalition. He says the governor's office, legislature, and judiciary being exempt from the public records law encourages noncompliance among other state agencies, with law enforcement, like the state police, among some of the worst offenders.
The Massachusetts State Police, they've been recognized nationally for their secrecy.
According to the Secretary of State's office, the Massachusetts State Police have received thousands of records requests every year since 2020. By law, an agency can ask for an extension of the 10-day response window, file a petition to charge more than the $25 per hour maximum fee to gather records, or claim one of nearly 24 exemptions to limit the information released through heavy redactions like these, or withhold the records altogether. The public does have a right to appeal, and each year hundreds are filed with the state's supervisor of public records.
We can make our case, and we might even get a ruling in our favor, but ultimately, in order to enforce that ruling, we have to go to court.
Silverman says that has to change. Both he and Comer want the supervisor of records to have enforcement power.
The supervisor of public records has to have the ability to just, take these agencies to court, to sue them, and to force them to comply, instead of just having this system where, they can't do anything.
But with a new colonel at the helm, Silverman believes state police now have the opportunity to bring more transparency to the agency.
Reset the department how it works as far as how it withholds information, how secretive it is. We need to take that secrecy out and make sure that there's a presumption of transparency.
Now, we reached out to the Secretary of State's office about those calls to give the supervisor of records enforcement power, and we're told the office supports the move. While the legislature has not granted that authority, the last update to the law did give requesters the opportunity to obtain legal fees in certain circumstances, which in turn has made it easier for requesters to pursue enforcement through the courts. Corey Smith, NBC 10 Investigators.
Today, the state police issued a statement saying, in part, that, quote, they remain committed to earning and maintaining public trust by delivering excellent police services and fulfilling our responsibilities under the public records law. The agency acknowledged they receive a large volume of complex record requests and have a dedicated public records unit staffed to process these requests as they are received.